Hello scholars, welcome to Dakshinai classroom. Today we are going to discuss problems from modern physics 1. In this video, there will be problems from photoelectric effect and de Broglie wave. Now, in the homework you have got exercise 1 and exercise 2. So there will be two videos, one for exercise 1 and another for exercise 2. So this will be your exercise 1 problems. So section 1, let's start. Section 1 is photoelectric effect. Now there are some pretty basic questions in exercise 1. Exercise 2 have a little bit better questions. So exercise 1 are very basic, your theory based questions. So let's take a look. Question number 1. A metal surface is illuminated by a light of given intensity and frequency to cause photo emission. And as if the intensity of illumination is reduced to 1/4 of its original value. Now, when photoelectric effect happens, you write Einstein's photoelectric equation, kinetic energy max equals h mu minus phi, where this is the maximum kinetic energy of any photoelectron, this is frequency of the light, h is Planck's constant, phi is the work function, and intensity is reduced to 1/4. Now, you know that when intensity is changed, frequency is not affected. Only the number of photons emitted from the source are affected. So, what you will say? Previously, there were n1 number of photons and intensity is reduced to 1/4 of the original. So how many photons are now? n1 by 4. So total number of photons striking the metal plate is reduced from n1 to n1 by 4, while frequency of the light wave remains same. So then the maximum kinetic energy of the emitted photoelectrons would be. Now you know that the maximum kinetic energy does not depend upon the number of photons. It depends upon frequency of the wave. And since by changing intensity we do not change frequency, in this case maximum kinetic energy will change or not? It will not change, because when you change intensity, number of photons changes while frequency and wavelength remains same. So what you will say? Kinetic energy maximum will remain unchanged. So that will be your answer. So option number 1, that kinetic energy, maximum kinetic energy of the emitted photoelectrons would be unchanged. So let's take a look at question number 2. What is question number 2? A2, section A. Mark the correct statement in photoelectric effect. Now let's read the statements. Electrons are emitted from the metal surface when light falls on it. Now, in photoelectric effect, if you remember, electrons are not emitted for any light. Meaning, if I take a metal surface and I just shine any light, then electron will be not emitted. Electron will only be emitted when light of frequency greater than work function is incident on the surface. So option number 1 seems to be wrong. Why it is wrong? Because they are not saying which wavelength, which frequency light. So if the energy of light is greater than work function or frequency is greater than threshold frequency or wavelength is less than threshold wavelength, then only electrons will be emitted. Otherwise electrons will not be emitted. So option number A seems to be wrong. What is second option? The kinetic energy of photoelectrons is more for light of longer wavelength. Now what is kinetic energy maximum here? Kinetic energy maximum is h mu minus phi, or you can also write it as kinetic energy max equal hc by lambda minus phi. So if the wavelength is longer, so it is in denominator. then kinetic energy will be less, right? So for longer wavelength, kinetic energy should be less. For shorter wavelength, kinetic energy should be more. But in option number 2, they have written opposite. What they are saying? Kinetic energy of photoelectrons is more for light of longer wavelength. So that is not correct. For longer wavelength, kinetic energy will be less. So option number B is also wrong. And option number C is both of them are correct. No. Option number 4, none of the above are correct. That is correct. So D is the correct choice, that none of the options are correct. Okay, let's talk about question number 3. Question number 3. If the threshold wavelength of light for photoelectric effect from sodium surface is 6800 angstrom. 1 angstrom is 10 to the power minus 10 meter. Then work function of the sodium is. Now, you remember that for work function I can write Hc divided by lambda naught, where lambda naught is threshold wavelength, or you can also write it as phi is equal to H mu naught, where mu naught is the threshold frequency. So here your lambda naught is given and I have to find the work function. So work function phi will be equal to Hc. If you remember, we can write Hc directly as around 1242 electron volt nanometer. Now remember, when you use this value, you must write wavelength in nanometer. Do not make a mistake of writing wavelength in any other value. So here it is 6800 angstrom, and 6800 angstrom can be written as 680 nanometer, like this. And when you solve this, you will get approximately 1.8 electron volt. That is the work function of your sodium. So that is option number 1. 1 is the correct option. That is your third. Very easy questions. Okay, let's talk about fourth question. Fourth question is slightly interesting. What is this? When the distance of point light source from a photo cell is R1, photoelectric current is I1. Now remember, it is a point source of light. Light source is point size. So let us say, here is your point source, and you know that for a point source, intensity of the light varies with intensity is proportional to 1 by r square, because intensity is 4 pi r square divided. So intensity you can write power divided by 4 pi r square. Power remains same. So for a point source of light, intensity is proportional to 1 by r square, where r is the distance from point source. Correct? Now, photocurrent. Now, if you remember, photocurrent depends on what? Photocurrent is a direct property of intensity. If you increase the intensity of light, photocurrent increases. If you decrease the intensity of light, photocurrent also decreases. So what I can do? I can say photocurrent is proportional to intensity. If I increase intensity, photocurrent increases. If I decrease intensity, photocurrent decreases. Now, if photocurrent is proportional to intensity, can I write photocurrent is proportional to 1 by r square? If here is our metal plate and light is falling on this metal plate like this, then photocurrent will be proportional to 1 by r square, where r is the distance of your metal plate from the light source which is a point size light source. So like this. Now, so if initially distance is r1 and intensity is I1, so what I can say? I1 is proportional to 1 by r1 square and I2 is proportional to 1 by R2 square. Now I1 is photocurrent when distance was R1, I2 is photocurrent when distance was R2. Now they want what is the ratio of I1 by I2. So here you can find ratio. What is the ratio? Simply divide. So I1 by I2 will be equal to R2 square divided by R1 square. So that is your option number 1. So option 1 is the correct option, that when you find the ratio of photocurrents I1 by I2, they are inversely proportional to distance from the source square, like this. So now let us discuss the fifth question. What is the fifth question? Fifth question says that maximum energy of electrons released in a photocell or photoelectric effect experiment is independent of, it does not depend. So what is maximum kinetic energy? Kinetic energy maximum is equal to h mu minus of phi. Now, so kinetic energy maximum depends upon what? H is universal constant, so leave that. It depends upon frequency of the incident light and work function. Now work function is the property of metal. What metal plate you are using as cathode to perform the photoelectric experiment. So phi is the work function of the emitter plate. So if you use different emitter plate, then phi will change, and if phi changes, then kinetic energy maximum changes. So let us read the options. Option number 1, frequency of the incident light. Now remember, they are asking which one of these independent of. So maximum kinetic energy of electrons released in photoelectric effect is independent of. So obviously it is not independent of frequency. So option number 1 is not correct. Option number B, intensity of light. Now if you remember, when you change the intensity, you only change number of photons. You do not change the frequency or wavelength of the light. So obviously it is independent of intensity of your light. Option number C is nature of cathode surface. What is the meaning of nature of cathode surface? Meaning if you take different metal plates, then phi will change, and if phi changes, then kinetic energy maximum changes. So obviously kinetic energy maximum is dependent upon nature of cathode surface, but they are asking independent. So option number C cannot be the answer. D is none of these, so that is also not the option. Second option, that is maximum kinetic energy is independent of intensity of incident light. So you can say kinetic energy max is independent of intensity of light, like this. So that will be your answer. That is option number 2 is the correct choice. Let us take a look at question number 6. Question number 6 says, in a photoelectric effect, we assume the photon energy is proportional to its frequency and is completely absorbed by the electrons in the metal. Meaning when you shine a light source on a let's say emitter plate, then one photon is completely absorbed by one electron. That is the case. Now what it is saying that then the photocurrent, so they are talking about photocurrent. So energy of the photon is equal to h times mu, like this. Now option number 1 they are saying is ki photocurrent, they are talking about photocurrent. Then the photocurrent, option number 1, decreases when the frequency of the incident photon increases. Now remember, if you change the frequency, number of photons remains same, then photocurrent will not be affected. Why? Because photocurrent is proportional to intensity. and intensity tells us the number of photons. So if you change the frequency but do not change the number of photons falling on the surface, then photocurrent will not be affected. So if you change the frequency, then photocurrent will remain same as long as your frequency is greater than mu naught. Here they have given that frequency is greater than mu naught. This is assumed beforehand, that frequency is greater than threshold frequency. So the first option, that decreases when the frequency of the incident photon increases, that is not true. Second option, increases when the frequency of the incident photon increases. No, frequency does not matter as long as it is above threshold frequency. If you bring the frequency below threshold frequency and you say, sir, you have told me frequency does not affect photocurrent, then that is not true, no? Because if you bring the frequency below threshold frequency, then photoelectric effect will stop taking place, and if it stops taking place, then current becomes zero. So given that frequency is above threshold frequency, it will not affect your photocurrent if you change the frequency. So option number A and B are wrong. Option number 3, does not depend on the photon frequency but only on the intensity of the incident beam. That is the correct choice. That photocurrent depends upon intensity. Intensity means number of photons. Intensity of beam. Incident beam. Like this. So as long as frequency is above threshold frequency, if you change frequency, photocurrent will not be affected. But if you bring the frequency below threshold frequency, then photocurrent will stop altogether. Now, question number 7. What is question number 7? When stopping potential is applied in an experiment on photoelectric effect, no photocurrent is observed. This means that, now what is stopping potential? Stopping potential is such that even the maximum kinetic energy electron should not be able to reach your collector plate. So you write stopping potential V naught as h mu divided by E minus phi by E, where phi is the work function, E is the charge on one electron, magnitude, h is the Planck's constant, mu is the frequency of the incident ray. Now, what actually happens in an stopping potential? When stopping potential is applied, what actually takes place? Now remember, in case of a stopping potential, your electrons are still ejected. It is not that electrons stop coming out of the metal surface, but as soon as the electrons are ejected from the metal surface, what happens? There is an electric field applied, and that electric field pulls back electrons towards the metal surface, which was emitter plate. So in case of stopping potential is applied, the reason that there is no current, what is the reason? It is not that electrons are not ejected. Electrons are still ejected, but the external field which you have applied, what it does is it stops electrons from reaching your collector plate. So you cannot say that, sir, no electrons are ejected. Electrons are still ejected, but your external field stops electron from reaching the collector plate and they are reabsorbed in your emitter plate. So let's see the options. Option number 1, emission of photoelectrons is stopped. No, it is not stopped. They are not able to reach the collector plate. The emission is not stopped. So option number 1 is wrong. Option number B, or second option, the photoelectrons are emitted but are reabsorbed by emitter plate. Of course, they are emitted, and when they are not able to reach the collector plate, they are reabsorbed by the emitter plate. So, option number 2 will be the correct choice. What is this? Photoelectrons are reabsorbed by emitter plate. First they try to reach the collector plate, but when they are not able to reach the collector plate, they are reabsorbed by the emitter plate. So option number 2 will be your correct choice. So let us discuss 8th question. What is it? If the frequency of light in a photoelectric experiment is doubled, then stopping potential will. Now what will be the effect of doubling the frequency on stopping potential? Now here this is frequency, this is stopping potential, this is work function, this is magnitude of charge on one electron. So let us say new stopping potential is V naught dash. So V naught dash will be equal to twice h mu, because frequency is doubled, divided by E minus phi by E. That way. Now let us say, can I write phi by E equal V naught plus this? So let us write like this: V naught dash equal to twice of h mu by E, and in place of h mu by E I can write V naught plus phi by E equals h mu by E, like this. So write this here: V naught plus phi by E minus phi by E, like this, and solve that a little bit. V naught dash equal twice V naught plus phi by E, and compare this and this. So obviously this V naught dash is greater than twice V naught, is greater than twice V naught, meaning if you double the frequency, then the new stopping potential will be more than double of the original stopping potential. So option will be becomes more than double. And same applies if you may, let us say I say that I increase stopping potential 4 times, or let's say frequency 4 times original value, then stopping potential will become more than 4 times original value. So this is for double. You can apply that to any multiplication, for 3 times, for 4 times, for 5 times. If you increase frequency 5 times original value, then stopping potential will become more than 5 times the original value. So option number 3 is the correct choice. That is the correct choice. So this was your photoelectric effect question, section A. Next we will talk about section B, that is de Broglie wave or matter wave. If you have not solved this question, please first solve yourself, then only you can take a look at the solutions. So now let us take a look at problems from section B, that is your de Broglie waves. If you have not solved yourself, first solve yourself, then take a look at the solutions. And if you want a particular question solution, you can just skip ahead to that question. Now let us solve question number 1, that is B1. What is question number B1? The ratio of de Broglie wavelength of a proton and an alpha particle of same energy. So one is proton, one is alpha particle, they both have same energy. Now in case of a de Broglie wave, lambda is written as Planck's constant divided by momentum, or this can also be written as h by root over of twice of mass times kinetic energy. Both are true. Now In case of a proton and alpha particle, now you know that alpha particle is nothing but a doubly charged helium ion, and the mass of that doubly charged helium ion is 4 atomic mass unit, that is 4 times a proton approximately. So what I can say is, in case of a proton, lambda p, or you can simply say that, sir, since their energy is same, 2 is constant, h is Planck's constant. So you can say lambda is proportional to 1 by root over of m mass. So if I want ratio, so ratio of de Broglie wavelengths of proton and alpha particle. So what I can write? Lambda of proton divided by lambda of alpha particle will be equal to, since they are inversely proportional, so you can write under root of mass of alpha particle divided by under root of mass of proton. Now you know that mass of an alpha particle is 4 times mass of a proton. So this will be under root of 4 by 1, that is under root of 4 by 1 is equal to 2 by 1. So lambda of proton divided by lambda of alpha particle, if they have same energy, that will be your 2:1, that is your option number 2. So that is your question number 1, how to find the ratio of lambda proton, lambda alpha particle if they have same energy. So you can use this formula, lambda equals h by root over of twice of mass of the particle multiplied by kinetic energy of the particle. Second question. What is the second question? The ratio of de Broglie wavelengths of a proton and alpha particle moving with same velocity. Now remember, in this question, in the first question, their kinetic energy was same, but in the second question, they are moving with same velocity. There is a difference. What is the difference here? So here you will say lambda of alpha particle will be equal to h by momentum of alpha particle. And what you will write momentum as? Mass of alpha particle multiplied by speed of alpha particle. And you can say, sir, lambda by of alpha particle is proportional to, and velocity, remember what it is given, they are moving with same velocity. So velocity is also same for both proton and alpha particle. So you can simply say lambda of alpha particle will be proportional to 1 by mass of alpha particle, and lambda of proton will be proportional to 1 by mass of proton. This is only the case when they both have same velocities, then this is the case. If they had different velocity, kinetic energy same, then this was the case. And if I want ratio of proton by alpha particle, so lambda p divided by lambda alpha particle will be equal to mass of proton, no, mass of alpha particle will be here, inversely proportional they are, divided by mass of proton. And as we already know, mass of an alpha particle is 4 times mass of a proton. So this ratio will be 4 by 1. So in this case, correct option will be third choice, which is 4. Option number 3 is the correct choice. So remember, this we have written proportional to 1 by mass of alpha particle, proportional to 1 by mass of proton. This is only true when here I have taken velocity to be same in both cases. If velocity was not same, energy was same, then this will be true. If none of them are correct, none of them are same, then you will have to write complete equation. Okay, let's solve question number 3. What is the question number 3? Again, ratio, they are asking ratio. Ratio of de Broglie wavelength of a proton and a neutron this time. This time it is not an alpha particle, this time it is a neutron moving with same velocity is. Now again, so if velocity is same, you can say lambda is proportional to 1 by mass if velocity is same. Now, so you can say lambda of proton divided by lambda of neutron equal to mass of neutron divided by mass of a proton. Now, if you remember, mass of a neutron is slightly greater than mass of a proton. So this ratio will not be exactly equal to 1. Mass of a neutron is not same as mass of a proton. Mass of a neutron is very, very slightly greater than mass of a proton. So what they are asking? Same velocity is nearly. They are asking near about ratio. So near about ratio, you can say it will be 1. It will not be exactly 1. Why? Because this mass is slightly greater than this mass. So it is almost 1. Not exactly 1, but almost 1. So that is your question number 3, that here ratio will be almost 1. Option number 1 is the correct choice. Now let us take a look at question number 4. Now the question number 4 says that two particles have identical charge. If they are accelerated through identical potential difference, then the ratio of their de Broglie wavelengths would be. Now, when a charged particle is accelerated through a potential difference, then we write lambda is equal to h divided by root over of twice of mass q v, where m is the mass of the particle, q is the charge on the particle, v is the potential difference through which they are accelerated, and h is the Planck's constant. Now two particles are there, they have identical charge, so q will be same for both, and accelerated through identical potential difference, so v also will be same for both. So I can write lambda will be proportional to 1 by root over of mass of those particles. Since charge and potential difference is same for both of them, I can say this one. Now if I want to know the ratio, then I can say lambda 1 by lambda 2 will be equal to under root of m2 divided by under root of m1. Meaning the ratio of their wavelengths will be under root of m2 ratio under root of m1. Now remember, this is the case only when the charge is same for both the particles and potential difference is same for both the particles. Now remember, we do not know whether these particles are some ion or electron or proton or what. We do not know. Depending upon their what particles they are, you can know the actual value, but that value will depend on their masses. So this will be your option number 3. Option 3 is the correct choice. Now let us take a look at question number 5. B5. Question number 5 says, if the velocity of moving particle is reduced to half, then percentage change in its wavelength will be. Now, so let us say original wavelength is lambda equals h divided by m times v, momentum. Here v is the velocity, here v is the potential difference. Do not confuse. So if the velocity is reduced by half, then lambda dash will be equal to how much? H divided by mass will remain same. V will become v by 2, like this. So take 2 upside. So it will be twice of h by mv. So you can write lambda dash is equal to 2 times lambda. H by mv is lambda. So initial wavelength was lambda, final wavelength is twice lambda. Then they are asking percentage change. What is change? Change is final minus initial. So delta lambda is lambda dash minus lambda, which is lambda. So what is percentage change? Delta lambda divided by original lambda multiplied by 100. That is your percentage change. And since delta lambda is same as lambda, that will be 100%. So if the velocity is halved, then wavelength becomes double. And how much percent change is that? 100% change is that. So when velocity is half, wavelength is changed by 100%. That is your second option. Option 2. Question number 6. Let's take a look. 6 is momentum of gamma ray photon of energy 3 kilo electron volt in kg meter per second will be. Now, you know that for a dual nature of particles, or light particles or matter particles, for both of them, lambda can be written as h divided by p. This is true for light particles also, for metal particles also. Now, if this is lambda, then can I write like this? P equals h by lambda. If I multiply both sides by c, then what I will get? P times c equals hc divided by lambda. And what is hc by lambda? hc by lambda is nothing but energy of the photon of the light of wavelength lambda. So this you can write as E, energy of one photon. So you can also write momentum of the photon is nothing but energy of the photon divided by c. C is what? Speed of light. So if I want to know the momentum of the gamma ray photon, then energy is given as 3 kilo electron volt. So 3 into 10 to the power 3 electron volt. And if I want to convert electron volt into joule, then what I will have to do? Multiplied by 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19. Whole divided by speed of light. What is speed of light? 3 into 10 to the power 8 meter per second. And from here you get momentum is how much? 3 cancel. 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 24 kg meter per second. That is the momentum of your gamma ray photon with energy 3 kilo electron volts. Now see, if this momentum is very small, and momentum is proportional to energy because C is the constant. So if gamma ray photon has this very less momentum, then other light photons which are less than gamma ray photon, like infrared or visible light, they will have even lesser momentum than this. So this was your exercise 1, which contained photoelectric effect and de Broglie wave. De Broglie waves are also called matter waves. In the next video, we will discuss the questions from exercise 2. Until then, keep revising your topics and keep solving as many questions as you can.